Kings, queens, and in-betweens, welcome back to another live episode of City Boys Extra Time. The fourth official has spoken, and we're tired of hearing from any official. So let's hear from the boys. Speaking of the boys, who do I got with me this week? I'm Mr. Clean, and I've got my boys Jacob and Ethan here with me. Jacob, how are you feeling today, my boy?
I'm feeling pretty good. I feel really prepared for this episode going in. Did some good research over the
Good.
weekend. Watched a couple
Love
of
that.
extra games. So I'm excited to get into MLS Matchday 9. Ethan, how are you feeling, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic, gentlemen. We are honestly feeling on a roll right now. We haven't missed an extra time despite being maybe a little late to the party last week.
That's
We are
true.
still hitting every single match day so far this year. So I'm very happy with how it's going, despite St. Louis City's below mediocre production, if we're being honest. The MLS has still got me wrapped around its finger. I cannot lie. I am pretty enthralled by the league this season, gents.
Yo, it people compare it to like European leagues, of course, but you cannot argue that the entertainment value is not there. It's the entertainment is there every week. Even when it was like last week, we had a lot of draws, low scoring games. There's still a lot to talk about. And this week, we're back to some more high scoring games. So, some crazy goals, like the goals of the week that we're going to get into later. There was
Oh,
some bangers, some absolute bangers, common MLS goals. It just happens.
yeah, on a
Uh,
weekly basis. We're used to it at this point by now.
exactly.
So many bangers, it's actually making the criteria for goal of the week continue to go up because they keep getting crazier.
For real, for real. And it was a pretty close vote this week. I was kind of surprised, but
I
hey,
I didn't even get my own personal vote in there. This one's all up to the people this week.
the people have spoken. Before we get into the MLS, Ethan, is that what jersey do you have on?
Oh, gentlemen, you guys know that I have to represent one of the good friends of the show, Mr. Tom Franklin, these soccer zombies, his Olive and York, the 1950 U.S. Soccer Edition. This thing is fire, a great combination of the U.S. men's national team jersey and the soccer zombie pattern. I'm a big fan, gentlemen. I'm proud to be repping. Also, a good collab with Gen City, a supporters group for young
Yeah.
kids in the city of St. Louis that we also got to meet at our joint appearance at the St. Louis City game. Another friend of the show.
Yeah. I was gonna say you
Everyone,
definitely can see the stripes on that field or on on that jersey from the field.
no one is missing the stripes on this sucker.
Grayson, what kit are you rocking, my boy?
Oh, thanks for asking. This one is a Chelsea pre-match top
Oh wow.
from like 2000 I want to say 2014 season. Honestly, I am so happy I have this kit because there's so many fantastic Chelsea memories behind the scenes, and they're always wearing these kits. That's like Eden Hazard, Diego Costa, Willian, Pedro, like those sorts of players were in the locker room at the time. Good vibes, like it was a good time.
Back in the Chelsea heyday, some
Oh
might
yeah.
say.
Oh yeah.
Jacob, what are you rocking?
Oh, just the old faithful City Boys
Classic.
merchandise,
Need it.
big logo on the back. You know,
Hey, I had my first professional videographer gig yesterday, and
Ooh.
I wore my City Boys hoodie because that's my production company right there.
hey,
Them's my boys.
Damn.
So, uh, let's what do you
hold
say we
on,
get into the
pause.
Emma? Oh, not
I
yet.
am gonna give this lady a shout out in our regular City Boys scheduled episode, but I met Amy this week out at the St. Louis City game. She was very cool. Came up and talked to me. Got to chat how she found us, what she likes about our show, and had a really good conversation. So shout out to Amy. Nice to meet you. If there are other fans out there in the wild that see any of the three of us out there in the wild, please feel free to come up and talk. We are very nice people.
Please.
I try to be as welcoming as I can. So yeah, it was super cool experience. So yeah, shout out Amy.
Amy, big shout out to you for being a listener of the show. And if you're listening for the first time, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. We would appreciate that quite a lot. But without further ado, gentlemen, are we ready to get into breaking down the ninth match day of the MLS?
Oh yeah. Let's
Let's
get
wait
into it.
no longer, gentlemen. I'm going to kick us off in the West, where we had really the best games waited for last. And for that reason, I'm going to make y'all wait for last as well. We're going to get started with Houston and Colorado. When Houston would open up the scoring, Mihailovic would keep Colorado in it. Navajo would bring Colorado in front. And late, excellent back post header would put Houston level. Houston seems to be finding ways to grind out points right now. So they get a point against a decent Colorado side. Moving to LA versus Austin. Austin would take all 3 points in this game, but Ozuni and Vasquez look threatening, just not living up to their price tag, in my opinion. Maybe an Austin fans feel differently, but probably not the kind of production they want from their DPs. Austin do remain second in the table. Brandon Vasquez would bring Austin in front with 10 minutes to play in this match. A true striker's goal, a poacher's goal, or as a defender might say, a tap in from Brandon Vasquez there. Moving into St. Louis City SC versus Vancouver, where a struggling St. Louis City side would take on Vancouver, but manage a point. This game would finish 0-0, and I think that's a fair result for this game. Moving to Portland, where Portland and LAFC would kick off the late excitement. This game would finish 3-all. And when there is 6 goals in a soccer game, you know you are in for some fireworks. Not to mention, this game comes off the back of Steve Cherundolo's announcement that this season will be his final one at LAFC. And since that announcement, they seem to have a real fire about them. I think the main takeaway from this game is that Portland's attack is on absolute fire, gentlemen. They have 13 goals in their last 5 matches, the
Ooh,
kind of things that St.
crazy.
Louis City can only dream of. If you're an LAFC fan, though, I think your biggest takeaway is going to be that Olivier Giroud scored a goal of the week contender and a massive one to open his account for the season. The final game in the West, and but the one with the most goals would be Sporting Kansas City, benefiting from going in front early despite trying their best to fumble the bag. The game would go into halftime 3-2, and that always leads to fireworks. But that is my quick attempt at a 60-second recap of the Western Conference in the MLS. I don't think anyone could do a full recap in 60 seconds.
Nah, I
Not one
think you
that it's due,
crushed it.
though. But that's my recap of the games, gentlemen. Where should we get started, Jacob?
Personally, I really enjoyed watching the highlights of the Portland match. This game was absolutely bonkers. It was going crazy in Providence Park, and one of those like score lines where at the end of it both sides are kind of feeling like they wish they got out of there with more than just a point, but a
Yeah.
really good result for both of these teams as Portland continue to skyrocket and look better and better every single week.
Truly, their
Yeah.
stock continues to climb because we know LAFC to be one of the titans of the West. One of the teams that the title runs through. You know you're going to have to do well against them, and scoring 3 goals against Aaron Long, who frankly didn't have his best game, but also Hugo Lloris in net is a good sign, especially when your DP striker Felipe Mora is bagging a PK and getting to see the ball hit the back of the net. That's always going to be a good sign. Grayson, did you have a thought about the game?
Yeah, I'd have to say for me, this is very optimistic look for LAFC here. You have probably the three people you wanted most to score in this game scoring. You got Denny Bouanga, who I will say
Yep.
has had a good start to the season. Has This is his first goal. So Second? I
I
thought
was
this
gonna
was his
say it's his
first.
second goal. He got his first last week because we are in match day 7 because we noted just how
Mm.
surprising it was that yes, he had been on the score sheet getting assists, but his lack of scoring this season was just shocking from a player that's almost guaranteed 20 league goals this season.
Well, yeah, he would earn man of the match and get an assist as well. And then, of course, like Ethan said, Olivier Giroud banging in a free kick there is insane. He only scores absolute rockets. And then, of course, David Martinez, once again, just proving that he is a young star. Like, definitely one to watch for the future. And that's off the bench, too.
Hmm. Yeah, well, I think when right now, when you think of young stars in this league, my mind gravitates to a team like Inter Miami, where they're kind of being propelled to success by those veteran players. But David Martinez, not to say he doesn't have a veteran cast around him, but he is red hot right now. Speaking of young players that are red hot, Portland's David DaCosta is definitely a player to watch as well. It just seems like we wondered how Portland might replace Evander, and it seems like David DaCosta might be their answer.
I would argue Portland kind of look better without Evander right now.
Mm, that's I'm curious as to what a Portland fan would think about that because right now the
Right.
goals are flowing and it's hard to argue that. And Jacob, you mentioned how good of a win this was for Portland earlier. I would be hard done if I didn't mention that Denny Bawanga saw the ball hit the back of the net 2 times early on, and both were disallowed. In the 6th and the 9th minute, he had goals disallowed. And when one of the most dangerous men in the MLS sees that, you can almost guarantee he's going to sniff one out at some point. So for Portland to hold strong enough to get a point out of this, despite being at home and LAFC firing on all cylinders, I think this is a very good result, like you said, for both teams.
I think both of these teams are sort of red hot and definitely climbing. A team that is not red hot and the opposite of red hot, we have to talk about it. LA Galaxy losing
Oh,
yet again 1-0 this week.
man, you hate to beat a dead horse, right? But I'm curious what will solve the problems for Los Angeles Galaxy because Painsil has returned, and in my opinion, their best hope, Gabriel Peck, looks to be playing decently. It's not like he's not getting chances. I don't know what's going on. Genuine. I wish I had an answer for them.
You can't even blame it on the goalkeeper this week because he actually saved a penalty, had a
Yep.
great game. So LA figure something out, man. Marco Royce is back. You know, he got some minutes here.
But is Marco Royce back?
That's a
That
great question.
it's that's the thing. It's like, man, Marco Royce is kind of looking like a dud right now for the Los Angeles Galaxy. And granted, Ricky Puig, I think the most valuable player in the league alongside Messi. I don't. You slide him fully healthy into this team. I don't think he is solving all their problems either. Maybe a few points here and there, but
I
I
know.
do. He would completely change their midfield, and I think he'd earn them offensively. He'd probably restart them, but defensively, he's got nothing there.
A big headline for Ricky Puig this week is people were calling for Greg Vanney out, and Ricky Puig spoke out via Twitter saying, "No, no, no, no. Greg Vanney is the man for the job," and
I
I
agree.
I think that says a lot from your star boy and
absolutely.
like sort of kind of wears the captain band most of the matches. So, I mean, I guess it's not a Greg Vanney issue.
Yeah, he's if Greg Vanney is one of those MLS vets through and through. I think that the commentators mentioned 400 caps as player and coach for
That's
the
insane.
Galaxy. I think that is who they're going to stick with. I wonder if they could look to the transfer market and maybe find that on-field leader because that's kind of what it seems like they're missing is that Landon Donovan kind of get after guys and hold them accountable for their performances on the pitch. I actually, I'm looking at my notes. I actually forgot to mention one game because it was maybe the least significant game of the West between Minnesota and Dallas that did finish
Oh
0-0.
yeah.
I think that every week in the MLS, there's one battle of the goalkeepers, and this is going to be my nomination for that game.
Yeah.
Martin Paez and Dane St. Clair are two, I gotta say, A tier goalkeepers in the MLS. I think there's games where they're touching S tier, but for me, I'm gonna put them in the A tier. And this match, they really showed out for their teams. I think both of their goalkeepers are responsible for winning those sides of point because the teams have great attacks. Just neither side could sniff out a goal.
Yeah, there's a lot of back and forth, but it was a pretty tense game. Not too many clear-cut chances, but yeah, out of both sides that have a very good offense, neither could really create anything. So yeah, I definitely have to give credit where credit's due, and that would be between the sticks.
Speaking of A tier players, Ethan, I want your take on this. Georgi Mihailovic has had himself quite the start to this season.
Yep.
We've got the All Star game coming up in a couple months. There's also a ton of talent at the center attacking mid position
Yeah,
in
there
the
is.
MLS. Are you giving the starting position to Georgi Mihailovic as of match day 9 results?
Oh, my knee jerk response is no. My long thought out answer cannot find a Western Conference center attacking mid at the moment. I'd like to think that someone on St. Louis City could fill that role, but performances right now would dictate that they are not doing that.
I'm
I'm
gonna
trying to
pull up
think.
Georgie's
Say
stats.
maybe isn't where does Pep Biel play?
He's in the East with Charlotte, so
Is he on? Is
well,
he a 10?
to be fair, yeah, to be fair, I think they're in the same position. And since there aren't Eastern Western All-Star teams, I think that Pep Biel might be able to dispossess him because he has something like 10 goal contributions in these nine
Yeah,
games,
he's sitting on top of the league in assists. He's got 6 assists and he's also got 3 goals. So
Georgi
it's
Mihailovic has 4 goals and 3 assists in 9 appearances this season.
which is nothing to snuff at, especially for a Colorado side that is underperforming. He is carrying them on his back. I believe, I don't know who played in Rafael Navajo to get in behind and score, but I would put money on
I actually do
Mihailovic.
think it was Mihailovic.
So a goal and an assist against Houston. He gets both goal contributions. Yeah, Jacob, there's a solid argument to be made for his case right now. And yeah, he's that type of player. I think that there's a good argument to be made. You'd like to think that also maybe a player like Evander could fill that role and Luciano Acosta, but I just talked about Dallas's underperforming attack and or at the very least not being able to score. Whereas right now we're having the conversation about Mihailovic's 2 goals, 2 goal contributions. So
yeah, I'd have to say Evander would probably be like the best pick just to start in midfield, but I think he's more of a deeper lying kind of playmaker, not really a 10. It's kind of where he plays for Cincy at least.
And is Daniel Gazdag? He's not their starting center attacking mid in Columbus, is he?
He's been playing on the
Mm,
wing the past couple games for the crew.
I think De Rossi, right? I think I'm saying
Mm,
that correctly. I think he sits at that
Diego De
10.
Rossi, yeah. After watching him play, I could also be convinced to see him go into that role because he is very, very good on the ball. So yeah, there's a good argument there to be made, Jacob. I think you're onto something if you're a Rapids fan.
I don't think the Rapids are at all upset about the performances that Georgi Mihailovic is having this season.
Probably not. They got some other things to be angry about.
Well, Grayson, do
Let's-
you have any other matches from this week or from the West that you want to talk about?
Mm, I'm just swinging through them real quick. Not really. I'd have to say, as much as we hate to say it, like congrats, Sporting Kansas City, on smashing San Jose, but
No, listen, we do have to rip the Band-Aid, all right. Sporting Kansas City did get a dominant performance in their first of the season, probably their first in a very long time, truth be told. I do want to say both Chicho Arango and Joseph Martinez did score for San Jose, so it's not like San Jose performed horribly. For me, this was a case of really clinical finishing from Sporting Kansas City, which is to their credit. They're not going to get much from me. I will also say that their new signings, Manu Garcia and Shapi Suleimanov, have performed well for them this season. I know at first they started slow, they weren't producing, but watching them against St. Louis City and seeing them since, I believe that they have been affected. If I were a Sporting Kansas City fan, which I would rather not support a soccer team than be that. But if I were, I wouldn't be disappointed with them. If
yeah.
I'm a San Jose fan, I'm a little disappointed because our backup keeper played in this game. So maybe the result could go a different way if Daniel's in because he's really good. But
I think
yeah,
this is like shout out Sporting Kansas City. You scored 5 goals. Big problem though. You did let in 3. And a better
yeah, and it's
goalkeeper on the other team probably keeps you from scoring 5 goals. So this match, I take the W, but it wasn't great.
the last bit of credit I'll give Sporting Kansas City is their goalkeeper. John Polskamp has performed well this season and bagged an assist. That's
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Gnarly.
Yeah, that's a rare
It,
sight in the MLS. I don't know, or in professional soccer in general. That's a rare sight.
yeah. I will say,
Um,
although my Benteke shout is not aging well, my Daniel Shalui shout is aging quite nicely. 2 goals and 2 assists in this match day does sadly earn him Player of the Week in the MLS. So wrong team, man.
well, I'm gonna quickly move into something that I can get some enjoyment out of, gentlemen. Well, not really. St. Louis City have only scored 5 goals so far this season. We do take a point off the top team in the West. So
Mhm.
that's honestly not a bad result. All right. We would get a goal disallowed in the 24th minute. It's a controversial offside call. Hold your horses, gentlemen. Hold your horses. I know we're going to debate this plenty. We're going to talk about this plenty. And speaking of talking about this plenty, be sure to check out our full hour-long breakdown of this game on the City Boys channel coming out sometime this week if you want to hear us talk about St. Louis City versus Vancouver, because I know I'm feeling fired up and opinionated about this game, gentlemen.
I am too. I'm gonna go. It's not gonna be that long of a rant, but I I think it's you will see. Well, you'll see. You'll see. I don't want to get into it.
You'd
Yeah,
be hard
don't get too
pressed.
riled up right now.
You'd be hard pressed to find me without an opinion on anything. So I definitely have something to say when it comes to this one.
So be sure to be on the lookout for that. But that wraps up my part on the West, boys.
Cool.
I think it was pretty crazy. Can we take a quick peek at the table before we move into our next
Yes, sir.
conferences?
Do you want me to go over it or you want to rip it?
Let's tag team it, Jacob. You go first.
All right. Starting from the bottom, because we always start from the bottom. LA Galaxy sitting on 3 points in 15th place after 9 match days. Absolutely brutal. Averaging zero point 0.3 points per game is not great. Houston above them in 14th on 7th place. St. Louis's little sister Sporting Kansas City in 13th place, with St. Louis still sitting above them in 12th. You've got RSL in 11th, San Jose in 10th, Dallas in 9th, and take it away.
We're gonna move to the Pacific Northwest, where Seattle sits in 8th place, with LAFC sitting ahead of them in 7th. San Diego FC, the expansion side, on how many points do they have? 14 points right now, 6th place. Pretty good so far through 9 games for them. The Rapids sitting in 5th place on a satisfying 15 points, while Portland, Minnesota, Austin, and Vancouver round out the top 4 of the West. Frankly, incredibly shocking top 4. in the Western Conference
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah. I'd have to say biggest outlier there is Austin. What what? Uh Honestly would not think that they would be up there with, how their star signing of the summer is not performing. It seems like their entire offense isn't really performing, but they get points. They just simply get points.
Well, listen, they're the only team even close to the top four with a goal difference of -1. The next team with a negative goal difference in the West is LAFC, and they're in seventh. So them manage it does seem like they are managing second place right now. We do I haven't said his name tonight, so I do want to give some credit to Brad Stuver. He is obviously an unreal goalkeeper, but their attack is not performing to their
Yeah.
price tag.
We've given a lot of love to Western Conference goalkeepers in this episode so far, so I'm actually going to start us in the interconference with some more goalkeeper love in the Real Salt Lake Toronto game. This game really only has two crazy moments to talk about. Carbonneau would score the only goal in this game in the ninth minute, and the rest of this match was really just a Sean Johnson masterclass. The second moment in this match is a red card shown to Diego Luna for, quote, violent conduct. I watched the highlights of this match. I personally disagree with this red card. It comes after a corner kick where Diego is tangled up with his man. They both end up falling to the ground. Diego's trying to get up. He pushes on the ground to try to stand himself up. He's not even mad about falling down. And the Toronto player, clear as day, like tightens his legs that were already around Diego's ankles to try to pull him back to the ground. Diego obviously gets upset and he gets a push in before a bunch of bodies come in to separate them. There's not contact to the Toronto player's face or head area. It's just a push and then they chest each other up like typical coming togethers in soccer.
Yep.
I believe this to be a very soft red card. They did go to review it again and then they stood by the red card. So one thing to say is they're always going to catch the cat that retaliates. I do think Diego Luna needs to keep his head a little bit better, but he's currently out for the next match unless RSL appeals the card and wins. But shout out to Sean Johnson for really giving Toronto their first win of the season. Then moving to Charlotte versus San Diego. If you got to watch this match live, you are extremely lucky because this game was absolutely crazy. 3 goals for Charlotte in this game. Liel Abada had one in the 11th, Patrick Adjumang from the spot in the 45th, and then Andrew Privet, the center back, in the 57th. Andres Reyes conceded the penalty and was initially shown red, and then everyone's favorite however referee gets on the mic and they reviewed the penalty call and he tells them that it is still a penalty, but it's not a straight red, but it is a second yellow and still a red card, which I found to be comical. This guy needs his own podcast. Then the last one, certainly not least, Seattle versus Nashville. This game was all Seattle. They scored 3 goals in 15 minutes, one apiece for Masovsky, De La Vega, and Paul Rothrock. They also had a handful of chances for Nashville to get themselves back into it, but Nashville could not finish the ball. They also had really, really poor link-up play throughout the match. They did have a ton of opportunities off of set pieces, and you'd think with the height and the quality from Nashville that they'd be able to convert at least one of their corner kicks. But Seattle gets all 3 points at home in this one, and those were the 3 matches in the interconference. Grayson, where would you like to start on this one?
Let me see. I think the Seattle Sounders versus Nashville, like that's a really good score line for Seattle there. Just to really turn around their season. Their offense looks really good in streaks, though. So I am worried about Seattle. I think they come and go, but they are a very good side when they are on it, and they were on it. And it was same thing from Nashville. It's like, we've seen Nashville really pick it up the past couple weeks, and you just get blown out of the water here.
Yes, Grayson, Seattle's a side that is bitten by the injury bug. We know how tough that can be from our own personal experience. And it's a team that looks different as well, with, I think, impactful players like Leo Chu being gone and Jordan Morris isn't on the field. It's kind of like Jesus Pereira and now Paul Rothrocket have become. What do you got, Jacob?
So good news for Seattle fans. Jordan Morris was able to make an appearance off the bench in this match. He
He's
had
back.
like two or three chances to get on the score sheet in the second half, but a little bit of rustiness and a little bit of good goalkeeping play did keep him off the score sheet. But he looked rapid. He had one through ball where he, coming off the bench after being injured for some time, absolutely burns the last defender to go 1v1 with the goalkeeper. So things are looking up in Seattle's training room right now.
That's very positive. I don't love that as a Western Conference team fan, but I'm happy for them as as a good human. I like to think. Uh, on the flip side of this coin, though, Jacob, it's surprising to see Nashville go down by 3 in the first half and have no response at all in give or take 60 minutes. We can roughly assume that
Yeah,
added time.
yeah.
It gave them an hour to respond, and their quality in attack was not able to provide. Hani Mukhtar goes for 90 minutes in this game. Sam Surge takes a sub, but
Sam
we've
Surge did not look on it in this match. He had himself a couple of chances. There was a chance in which there probably should have been a free kick call where Hani Mukhtar was taken down, but Sam Surge continued the play and basically every shot looked like he put it right into the goalkeeper. This was one to forget for Sam Surge fans.
The next game I wanted to talk about is a massive result here is the Charlotte San Diego FC game. Like,
yeah.
that score line is insane. And of course, San Diego do go down pretty early to another red card. There's so many red cards in this match week. But this one would go for Reyes, the center back, Andres Reyes. And yeah, he would go down in the 40, let's see, 40th minute. Yeah, the 40th minute. So they had to play the entire second half a man down. And it did not go well from there. They had two goals scored on them after that. But
One
yeah,
of them was the penalty,
yeah.
Saw
unfortunately.
that Tim Ream came off the bench for Charlotte FC in this match as well, which is in, if I'm being honest, kind of a flex. If you're Charlotte, you're like, all right, we need this game to go into cruise control. We have a man advantage. The game is put away. Let's bring on one of the most composed defenders that we can in the country, one of the most composed statesmen. So I think that Charlotte's projection for this season is very, very good. They are looking good. If you're able to put three past an expansion team that has good vibes, I think you're in a good spot.
And on top of that, like Dos Santos, the keeper for San Diego, played well. Like, granted, they gave up
He's a good
three.
keeper.
One of them was a penalty kick, which he almost got to, but Adjumang just put more power than
Brother,
placement on it.
he smashed that.
So unless you were a literal brick wall, it's probably going in the back of the net. But he had himself a really solid game with some really, really good stops. I think we've talked about him some on these extra time videos, but Pep BL is extremely quality and like quietly maybe like top 15 players in the league right now.
He's a player that is making the Charlotte front office so glad they missed out on Marco Royce,
Yeah.
and rightfully so. Jacob, I think I'm going to say that he is loudly having an MVP style season, because I was convinced that he was a center attacking mid kind of player, but on the formation on ESPN, they had him on as a striker, as a second striker with Agumeng. But that's kind of the perfect complement to their attack. It just makes Charlotte so fluid. They can play with three center mids, they can play with three attackers up front. And I don't know of a player playing better than Pepiel at the moment in the MLS.
He is beaming with confidence. He was like not only bossing the attack, but like at every chance he could, he was looking to get on the ball and dictate and be an attacking maestro for this team. I think he sets up the two run of play goals in this match, and then Adjumang does all the work for the penalty kick, and then gets to take the penalty kick as well.
Look, if I'm New England Revolution, I'm shaking in my boots. All right, Charlotte are coming off of an undefeated run, or well, they yeah, 3 games in a row. They're they're flying right now. I don't. Yeah,
They beat
I
San
don't.
Diego. Is San Diego still up there in the Western Conference? What do we say they were at? They're sitting
uh,
in what's that? Sixth.
Sixth, sixth,
Yeah.
sixth.
Yeah.
Well,
So they've
look,
kind of fallen off a little bit, definitely slowed down, but still a good side. I have no doubt that they'll be back on it.
I don't want to spoil the East all that much, but Charlotte is on top. And look, Grayson, just take us into the East. Tell us about the East,
All
good
right,
sir.
fine. We're gonna get into the Eastern Conference here. Unlike Ethan's, we're gonna start off with a banger of an Eastern Conference matchup. Two heavyweights were previously undefeated before this match. It was Columbus Crew facing Inter Miami. And this matchup was all about the Crew creating chance after chance, but they were unable to capitalize. Benjamin Krabeshki would get his first of the season to break the deadlock with a diving header. It was a pretty clean, uber difficult finish. It was very nice, very nice. But I'd have to say this is really on the Crew here.
Bless.
Thank
Bless
you.
you.
They generated an XG of 2.94, and how many goals? Zero. Really bad
Oof.
match here for particularly, I'd have to say Daniel Gazdag. He had a couple big moments in the end where he could have buried that game or pulled them into it at that point because they're 1-0 down, but
Mm-hmm.
they just couldn't do it. There was many points in the match where Inter Miami was only attacking with two forwards, and it was just attack after attack from the Crew. They just couldn't break it down. So this does drop the Crew off the top spot. Miami does not take over. Um, Next match we got Montreal Impact versus Orlando City. Another match marred by a red card would end 0-0. The Impact would open the scoring pretty early, but it was ruled off for an offsides interference call. Gotta hate it. Pedro
Yeah,
Galese,
hate that rule.
goalkeeper from Orlando, once again going crazy in the back of the net. Some crazy difficult deflections that he got on the end of honestly saved the match for Orlando here. Rafael Santos would get the second yellow in the 76th minute to really open the doors for the Impact in the end to try and steal some points. And in the end, they could only steal one. So, uh, for going back to what Ethan was mentioning, the Revolution are going to be facing a very difficult opponent, but they are also on their own little win streak here with a 2-0 win over NYCFC.
Un poquito.
Leo Campana would get off the mark with his first for the club after joining from Inter Miami. And then, of course, Ignatius Ganago would also get his first goal for the club and the second goal of the match to seal the win there. And, of course, once again, Carlos Heel creating everything. That's back-to-back wins. The Revolution are starting to heat up, and they got both of their strikers back. You know, Campana was dealing with injuries early on. So, next match here, DC United stops the bleeding with a nice little 2-1 win over a difficult opponent in the New York Red Bulls, but they kind of made it look easy. I can't lie. Um, so, big story of the match easily is 23-year-old Brazilian Piglo First goal, insane little flick around Tim Parker. One on with the keeper, easy finish there. He made Tim Parker look like a bum. Second goal is, of course, the absolutely insane bicycle kick that I voted for as my goal of the week. It was insane. Choupo-Moting would get a little consolation goal to make it interesting in the 56th minute, but it would end 2-1. And DC United, yeah, gets a win after a really difficult period of games there. Two more matches. We've got a good win for Philly again over Atlanta United. I'm honestly a bit worried about Atlanta here. They're starting to slide, but it would be Quinn Sullivan getting his goal. Um, Great start to the season, but he is burying this one finally. Danley would make it two with a little megged finish on Brad Guzan, kind of hurting the TikTok takes a little bit there. Um, and then Philly would even go a man down. Another red card here in the 56th minute. It would be Sasha Lukic getting his second yellow. And Atlanta would come alive at the end there, but Andre Blake is back in the starting lineup and he would go crazy. Another great game for another goalkeeper here. And another good match here. We've got Cincy versus Chicago. And Cincy would get the victory here with all 3 points and 3 goals. Evander scores two of them. A very lucky deflection for the first one. Uh, and then my goal of the game here is another goal of the week nominee from Jacob is the Jonathan Bamba curling assist into Hugo Kuiper's great 1v1 finish, buries it, makes it 1-1. Kevin Denke would bury the second and honors his former teammate, former Cincy player, Bupenda, who passed away a couple weeks ago suddenly. Pretty insane. So, you know, paying his respect to his former Cincy player there. And then Evander would sneak in another past Brady with a very tight angle there, makes it 3-1. And then Gutman would earn a late penalty for Chicago. And they'd make it a 3-2 game, but it would end with Cincy on top, earning 3 points. Those are the matches. Yeah, quite a few there. Yeah, where do you guys want to start off here?
Can we talk about where we're at currently with between Cincinnati and Chicago? Because this was a game that I thought would have fireworks, and I think we were treated to that pretty special game. Cincinnati's best players showed out and got them a victory. And I think that is going to be Cincinnati's story this season, and fair play to them. I do want to give Chicago a lot of credit, though. Their best players also showed up. It just wasn't quite enough. Hugo Kuipers has been, I think he has quietly been very good this season. He has been the kind of player that has under the radar scored like 7 goals or something like that. None spectacular.
Sneaky.
By the way, none of them. All of them tap ins or back post headers. It's kind of despicable. But when Brian Gutierrez is playing his best, he's Jordy Mihailovic level, if not higher, probably a higher ceiling than Mihailovic, but
Yeah.
maybe not the caliber right now. But Brian Gutierrez is like that. If we haven't put you on watch already, get on watch.
He
Okay.
definitely deserves it.
I want to take us up to Philadelphia. A 3-0 W. Ty Berrybo hasn't scored in some weeks, gets back on the score sheet over sinking Atlanta United ship right now. Atlanta United has not played well the last couple of weeks and has lost some games in which, in like week 4, we would have guessed that they'd go on a little streak of W's. But yeah, Philadelphia is still making a case for a playoff position. Bradley Carnell still doing well as Philadelphia's head coach.
Yo, I think we are uniquely qualified to question Bradley Carnell's tactics after a year and a half of experiencing them for ourselves. So when I saw that he had benched Ty Berrybo, the league's top scorer, to maybe get a spark out of him, just do something. While Philadelphia's attack went 2 games in a row going scoreless, I was kind of chuckling. I was like, all right, well, just hand Atlanta the game, I guess. That's just a crazy strat. But nope, 84th minute, who seals the game? But one of the league's top scorers, Ty Berrybo. I think that you're right, Jacob. Philly are a playoff contender and playing playing up right now. I think they're playing above their abilities.
Yeah, I think this game once again shows Quinn Sullivan's promise. Can't stop talking about him. He's a
And don't
baller.
say we haven't talked about him or haven't put him on because we have talked about him almost every week on this show because he has been so unreal this season. To see him score that kind of goal was a perfect demonstration of his quality.
Yeah, he does need to work on the goal celebrations. I know he hasn't scored it sub tie, but that celebration looked a little minor league in my opinion. We gotta raise the standards up for celebrating goals.
When you're potentially the American soccer family to be, you got to have that in your arsenal. That adds to your star power. While we're in the Northeast, I want to talk about New England versus NYC because before this match, I had NYCFC wiping the floor with New England. NYC's attack has been pretty good so far this season. They were just coming off a victory over Philadelphia, a, an objectively better team than them. And the Martinez, not brothers, but Maxi and Alexis Martinez just or Alonso Martinez, excuse me, not producing in this game. Very surprising.
Yeah, I'm not
Mhm.
high on New York City. I don't really rate them. I do think this is a good win for the Revolution because if you would have told me that this scoreline ended 0-0, I wouldn't have been surprised. I
Yeah.
don't think these are two teams that are playing very well. But a 2-0 win over a team that's arguably just as bad as you are is a good result. You got 3 points out of it.
No, I'd have to argue that I think the Revolution's defense is starting to wake up a bunch with Carlos Heel. They're sitting him back a little bit more. He's in the center of the park. Kind of like what we were talking about last week with Emil Forsberg. Every attack is coming through this guy, and they've got their strikers finally scoring this week, so that's a positive. And yeah, they're not terrible defensively, so we'll see. We'll see. Definitely a mediocre team, but they can get results against
No,
good
they're going to
sides.
be tested against Charlotte next week, and we're going to see just how well that defense can hold up when Wilfred
Mm.
Zaha, Patrick Alguermang, and Pep Biel are running at them. We're going to see if New England's defense is like that.
To be fair, we are in the middle of a New England Revolution rebuild, so they're not looking to win a championship right now. They're just looking to put some pieces together, get some results, and then maybe in the coming seasons they'll be looking to fight for that top spot.
And I will say they actually lost this first round fixture. They faced NYCFC earlier this season, a couple match days ago, and they lost 2-1. So they turned it around. They are on a 2 game win streak. They beat Atlanta last week 1-0, and then they lost to Cincy 1-0. It was a very close game against Cincy as well. So they're an interesting side.
The other New York team, the Red Bulls, dropping points pretty surprisingly to maybe the most polarizing team in the MLS right now, DC United. Maybe not polarizing, but hot and cold team.
Mhm.
Just coming off the back of a crazy losing streak. What do but produce a worldy of a goal for one of their young players who I'm guessing they want to hand the reins to in a post Christian Benteke DC United.
I'd have to say they're not handing it to him. He's taking it. Like that was a crazy game.
I think that's more wishful thinking for Grayson's take on this season.
I do want to give a shout out to the crossover. I saw that he did an interview with the goal scorer João Peglo in Portuguese.
Wow.
That's sick. He's
That is pretty baller.
Brazilian, I believe. So yeah, that's really cool.
Well, we interviewed Dewan Jones in English, so
Same thing, same thing. Oh man.
Well, any final notes on the East, or should we just look at the table?
I want to get into
Wait,
this. Okay.
wait.
Wait.
There's quickly surprised that Orlando couldn't score against Montreal. That's very surprising to me. But I think the one important storyline that we have saved for last, not forgotten, definitely not forgotten, is that the Columbus Crew played Inter Miami in Cleveland. They didn't play in Columbus.
That's so weird.
How do you guys feel about this? Because I know that from what I saw online, the general consensus was that fans were not super stoked that they would move a team in Columbus to a bigger venue to what seems like cash in on the Messi effect. On the flip side of that, if you are a Columbus Crew fan and you've been a fan for a long time, wouldn't you want as many eyes as possible on the team in one of their biggest moments while they're in the limelight? I do understand it's not at their stadium and the atmosphere would have been raucous in Columbus. I just giving more people the opportunity to see Messi play makes sense to me in my head as well. As a consumer of soccer as well. As a purist, I get being unhappy that it's not in Columbus. That makes sense to me. And I respect a Columbus fan that's upset about that.
I
As
would be livid. I'd be livid.
yeah,
Imagine St. Louis City is going to play Inter Miami. This isn't a good example. This is not a good example. But St. Louis is about to play Inter Miami. And they're like, hey, we want as many people to come see St. Louis versus Inter Miami. Why don't you guys come play at Arrowhead?
It'd probably be held at the Dome, truthfully.
The dome sucks.
It
yeah,
does.
St. Louis is a tough example to make out of that because there are like a few football venues around and a
They're not
few.
better than City Park, though.
I 100% agree with that.
Well, there's not a soccer venue better than City Park. Let's get that out of the
That's what I'm
way
saying.
to begin
So,
with.
like, for a Crew fan, I'm sure they feel that their park is great. I'm not saying they probably, I've never been. Maybe it's a good park. I don't know. But either way, it's just like, yes, this could be a very big moment for your club. Spend it at your club. Like, it's not like I understand you're trying to promote the team, but
Mhm.
like
I am
How about
leaning
that?
towards agreeing with you, Grayson, because if you're getting all these extra eyes on your team, wouldn't you want to show all these extra eyes how dope the experience at the park is? Granted, you give yourself a ceiling of how much money you can make on cashing in on Lionel Messi, but the investment long term of potentially generating new fans near Columbus would pay itself off in the long run as opposed to this one time influx of cash.
Mm.
interesting.
And there's from the team owner standpoint, there's only one clear option, right? It's like, okay, more tickets, more income, bang, easy,
Yeah,
easy
let's
money.
make a cool $10 million this
It
weekend.
couldn't, yeah, it couldn't be more clear if you want, 60,000 fans compared to 20 something thousand fans are going to eat a lot more hot dogs, have a few more beers, have some more soda. Like, it makes sense from a business standpoint, right? But from a soccer consumer standpoint, Grayson, I think you're completely right. It makes for special moments. Like seeing the Chicago Fire play in Worldwide Technology Park is a special memory. It holds a special place in my heart because you see a large team such as Inter Miami right now, they have that kind of prestige playing in a place that you know and love. And So, yeah, I think there's arguments for both sides here, but I don't ever think I'll be a soccer owner, so I'm gonna stand on the side of the soccer
Yeah.
fans here. I think they should have held that game in Columbus, but I do understand as to why they would let more fans in on the spectacle.
Similarly to your point, Ethan, in England specifically for their um, FA Cup in those rounds that's like Manchester Cities of the world's,
Yeah.
Manchester United's, Chelsea's are playing those lower league teams in their lower league homes. They
Hmm.
don't move venues. They go to the smaller neighborhood stadiums, and it is the experience for the fan as opposed to for the owners.
100%. That kind of stuff makes a difference in the community, man. On a small team like that, not to say that the Columbus Crew are a small team, by the way. They have a pretty large MLS prestige of
Yeah.
their own, I would
Right.
say. But yeah, getting to see that's the kind of stuff that you tell your grandkids about. Absolutely. So I don't like I said, I don't blame ownership at the same time. If I'm a Columbus Crew fan that lives in Cleveland, I'm stoked, bro. But if I'm a Columbus Crew fan that lives in Columbus where the team is, I'm pissed. So yeah, there's a lot of different sides. I don't think
Yeah.
there's a perfectly right decision here, but I just wanted to put that on the table because it's a pretty hot topic, and the Columbus Crew fans have been through enough. Damn it.
All right. Now that that debate is over, let's go ahead and take a peek at this Eastern Conference table because the top is messy. Okay, so we've got Charlotte FC sitting on top of the table, tied on points with Cincy. They have the same exact record. They're only above them on goal difference. They've scored seven more goals or
Okay.
allowed seven less goals. For I don't
However,
want
the math
to. I
shakes
don't.
out.
I don't care. I don't want to do the math right now. Sitting just behind them, two more teams that we were just talking about: Inter Miami and Columbus. After Miami wins, they are even on 18 points with Miami in third with a seven goal difference and Columbus in fourth with a five. Then you got Philly, you got Nashville, you got Orlando, you got Chicago. The top of the table has so many good sides. And then we start to fall off here. We got the Red Bulls, who are still tied with Chicago on 12 points. You got NYCFC, New England, and then Atlanta, DC, Toronto, and Montreal still
It
looking
just
for first points. Yeah.
it falls off hard in the East, doesn't it? It's
Yeah.
honestly very competitive through those first nine. And on a good day, maybe even those first 10, 11 teams, even, you know,
Hmm.
Atlanta on their day can compete. But you know what's interesting, Grayson? I believe the leaders in the supporter shield are the Vancouver Whitecaps, though. So we've
Yeah.
talked all this
Yeah.
about how the East is much more competitive this season than the West right now, and how the East it has all these good players, but the highest mountaintops are still in the
By 1 point.
Whitecaps.
By 1 point. By 1 point, I will say. And in that argument, that means they got a lot of points off bottom feeders from their own conference. Like LA Gap. Nah, just kidding. Uh,
Montreal and Toronto are not looking great at the
yeah.
moment either. Pretty free.
All
Well,
right.
gentlemen,
Can I get into our goal of the weeks?
please do it.
Most
Okay.
definitely.
So, if you haven't voted, you have a couple of seconds to go vote on our Instagram right now at St. Louis City Boys. But first goal of the week contender is the Olivier Giroud free kick. Left footed, top of the D, takes it, bangs it off the crossbar, down into the net, back up into the crossbar, and then back down into the back of the net for his
Nasty.
first goal in the MLS this year. Which, if you tuned
Nasty.
in last week, I think I think LAFC has someone watching our content because a couple weeks ago we talked about how Belonga hasn't scored. What does he do? He scores. Last week, Grayson and I were talking about how Olivier Giroud is a potential MLS bust because he hasn't scored. What does he do? Bangs in a free kick. So,
Yeah.
shout out to the LAFC people watching our
We need
stuff.
to talk more about St. Louis City on
Yeah,
this
we need to
show.
be critical. We already are, but it's too late.
Goal of the week nominee number 2 is the Jonathan Bamba outside of the foot curling assist to Hugo Kuipers, who beats his man for pace, takes a touch, left footed just around / underneath the goalkeeper's foot and into the back of the net. This goal is mostly the pass, but there was still a lot to do with the finish, and it was a clean finish as well. Goal of the week number 3 is the Choupo-Moting off the chest volley. Granted, it doesn't win them the game. It does get them onto the score sheet, and it continues the fire that Choupo-Moting has had in these last couple of weeks, continuing to find the back of the net. And this one was so well taken. Comes from a corner, gets headed out. Then instead of like settling it and then playing another ball in like you typically see from corner kicks, they go ahead and head it right back in, and then it gets headed to Choupo-Moting, who takes it off the chest, half volleys into the back of the net. Finally, the moment you've all been waiting for, goal of the week contender number 4, and current leader. So I'm going to give it the overall W. It is the João Pedro bicycle kick.
Impossible to beat.
Ball gets clipped in, headed, immediately, no question about it, has himself just enough space to clip it just over the goalkeeper. It skims the top of the underside of the net and then rolls itself down into the back. The celebration was amazing as well. If you were looking, I'll transfer us over to the Eastern Conference scene. But this man got up there for his jump. Look at that. Look at that image right there on the screen. Left side of your screen. That man was up there and excited. And yeah, he heard Grayson talking. He was like, you know what? I'm taking that starting striker spot. It is mine now. So, congratulations, João Pedro. You win this week.
He's
well deserved effort. Well deserved effort. A player to watch as well.
Both goals, honestly, in my opinion, could have been nominated for goal of the week. His first goal was crazy. I'm a sucker for a good turn on a defender. Just took him out of the game. Great finish there too. So yeah, I mean that's honestly the first time I'm hearing about this dude. So
yeah,
great introduction.
Yeah, not gonna lie. Yeah, pretty strong way to introduce yourself to the league.
Yeah. Any final notes from this match day 9 in the MLS, boys?
I know Ethan likes to do this. What matches are you looking forward to next week, my brother?
Well,
I think the only one I've personally looked towards is, of course, St. Louis City are coming up against LAFC. That's, we've faced a lot of very, very good top of the league sides recently. So at this point, I'm honestly I'm not extremely worried about LAFC, but LAFC loves a game against St. Louis. They always take it to us. So, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Well, LAFC is sitting 7th right now, so I'm feeling a little bit better about that matchup as far as points are concerned. But yeah, as far as how players match up, I am looking forward to a hopefully healthy Roman Berkey in that matchup, boys, because yeah, St. Louis City will need all the help they can get against a lightning hot attack from LAFC. I'm looking ahead and I see Cincinnati versus Kansas City. And as a Kansas City hater, I'm expecting the league's second most expensive signing, Kevin Danke, to put some goals past them.
Dunk on them.
Philadelphia versus DC. Honestly, DC United can go either way at this point. And with Philadelphia's inconsistencies in this stretch of games, who knows? Maybe DC United could get themselves a pretty good momentum win.
Minnesota Vancouver is a battle of the very cold teams, but I think both of them have proven that they're insanely good offensively, at least. So I think that'll definitely be one to watch.
You can almost certainly pencil in those two teams as playoff teams in the West. I think that's not too ambitious. Gentlemen, we're nearly a quarter of the way through the season. Did that set in
We're
for you guys after this match
getting
day?
there.
Because I didn't, it did not hit for me.
I think we are. Is my math ass? 9, 18, 27, 36. We are a quarter of the way through the season.
Oh, we're getting there.
I think the last game that I want to point out is going to be Columbus and San Jose because at this point, San Jose are such a mixed bag versus Columbus, a team you never know what you're going to get versus a team where you know what you're going to get every single time. It's that clash of styles that the MLS can give you, and I think it'll probably be a fun watch.
I'd have to agree with that one. Exciting stuff for match day 10. We'll be flying.
Well, we will be here to join you next week, next Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central Time, ready to take you through the MLS Match Day number 10 with City Boys Extra Time. My name is Ethan Thornton. I'm joined by Jacob and Mr. Clean himself. Thank you for joining us for City Boys Extra Time. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you're on YouTube. Don't forget to drop a follow, rate us 5 stars, and leave a review on Spotify. That would be really helpful if we got your feedback. But thank you for listening. We appreciate your time as always. Our most important call to action: do not forget to tell your mother you love her. Peace.
Peace.
MLS. MLS.
MLS.
MLS.
MLS.
MLS.
MLS.
MLS. MLS.
He's going way too fast.